Hello, this is Erica from Blacks and Period Films, and today is day 7 of our Write It series for Black History Month. Today has been very rainy where I live. It just started raining very hard again. The lights have gone out, they're back on, so I'm going to try to record this in one shot and hope it goes well. Today's picture is titled Philadelphia Fashions 1837. Now, the interesting thing about this picture is that although it's very beautiful, there is a lot of social commentary and racist connotations in this picture. So in the middle, there's just a description of what they have on, and their costumes and their clothing is very elaborate, which shows that they're free people in 1837 and that they are well-off free people. The woman says, "What you look at, Mr. Frederick Augustus?" And her husband, or the man that's accompanying her, responds, "I look at that white loafer. Well, look at me. I guess he from New York." So as you can tell, the person who engraved this is essentially making fun of the stereotypical way in which Black people talked at that time. And so although they're dressed nicely, this etching is a caricature of free Black people. And that's something that's common. E.W. Clay, that's the person who made these etchings. He had an entire series in the 1830s called Life in Philadelphia. And his series created a whole trend of these caricatures that made fun of, or poke fun at, free people of color. And so here are just a few. Here's 3. I have 3 more also in this slide, but I picked this picture because I think it's time that films take these images and these stigmas against free people of color and expand on them and add layers and show how it really was to be free at that time as a Black person in the 1830s, because they were so much more than these caricatures um, by the likes of E.W. Clay. Um, in the middle one, it says the man is asking, "Is Miss Diana at home?" Her maid responds, "Yes, sir, but she particularly engaged in washing the dishes." "Ah, I'm sorry, I can't have the honor to pay my devoirs to her. Give her my card." So essentially, they're making fun of free Black people that engaged in dating each other and gave out cards with the information on it, calling cards, and free Black people that could afford to have servants of their own. And here's another slide. To the far left and to the far right, we see images making fun of Black people, free Black people shopping. The first one, she asked, "Have you any flesh-colored stockings, young man?" And the worker responds, "Oui, madame. Here is one pair of the first quality." And you can see what color they're giving her as flesh-colored. It looks like purple colored is being considered the flesh-colored. And in the second image showing a Black woman shopping, she asked, "What you think of my new poke bonnet, Frederick Augustus?" And you see that that name is being used a lot, Frederick Augustus. There was a free man of color named Frederick Augustus Hilton, but I think it also might be talking about Frederick Douglass. Might be making some references to his name as well. "I don't like him no how, 'cause they hide your lovely face, so you can't tell one from another." And as you'll see, they were colored in very loud, bright colors that don't necessarily match, and very loud, bright prints that don't necessarily match, making fun of the way that Black people dressed. There were a lot of stigmas that free people of color faced in Philadelphia and elsewhere, especially in concern with how they dressed. There's a book. I have a book entitled "Forging Freedom: Black Women in the Pursuit of Liberty in Antebellum Charleston" by Amrita Myers. And I'm just going to read a little portion of that because it kind of gives the hint, um, gives some information about what free Black people in the 1830s would deal with in regard to their fashion. It says, the reaction of Southern whites to black sartorial style suggests that they were discomforted by black people dressing as if they were the social equals of the master class. So, of the master class, when you see these etchings making fun of free people of color for dressing nicely, they're essentially saying, I don't like that you can afford fashionable clothing that might be the same quality or even higher quality than mine. It says, in 1822, the City Council of Charleston observed that the expensive clothing worn by many blacks was not only highly destructive to their honesty and industry, but also subversive of the subordination which policy requires to be enforced. The council then asked the state to pass legislation regulating the appearance of people of color. In New Orleans, free women of color were forbidden to wear silks, gold, silver, pearls, mantellas, or slippers with silver bells. And if their hair was combed high, they were prohibited from placing feathers in it and had to cover their hair with a neckerchief. So we can see that style was very important. And that's one of the reasons why some people might wonder why I talk about fashion a lot on the blog and fashion a lot in these videos. Fashion is, even nowadays, it's important, but especially during this time, it was a signifier of your place in society. And so I'm very big on seeing black actors in period fashion, in beautiful period fashions. Free blacks fought the stigma that they were trying to model themselves as inferior versions of their white peers. That is definitely something that should be discussed in historical fiction or in a historical drama that concerns free people of color in Philadelphia. Free people of color existed in Philadelphia and elsewhere in the United States, and I want to see more productions with them. Now, these portraits are very beautiful, so I thought I'd include them because all of these people are free people of color, and we can see that they're well dressed. As I said before, fashion is a signifier for where you stand in society. So that will play a very important part in any film or novel about free people of color. And the etching was from 1830, and so that falls under the Romantic era of fashion. And I can't recall many films or series with black people that wearing Romantic era fashions. Feast of All Saints and The House That Cannot Stand are two great examples of black and mixed race people in Romantic era fashion. And I want to see more of that because fashion, as I said, is very important and it's a part of the period film experience. So the free people of color in Philadelphia existed. They were alive. They had their own institutions, their own organizations. They had their own cultures. They were fashionable. Many were wealthy. They experienced love, loss. They laughed. They cried. They were real people. They were much more than this etching by Mr. Clay. They are not a joke. They were real people. And so I believe that there should be more historical fiction, there should be more historical dramas that show them, that bring these people to life, that humanize them and that add layers to them so that they no longer are just a caricature. Their story should be told. Someone definitely should write it.